Hello, Easton, and welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable. I'm Rabbi Peter Hyman, Rabbi of Temple B'nai Israel, and haven't been here in a while because it's the summertime and had a little vacation. But I'm glad to be back, and I'm sitting with my dear friend, the indefatigable Erik Higgins, better known to many people as Groundhog. And before we get into our face-to-face, Erik and I want you to see something that we think is very interesting and very cool. So take a look.
So go ahead. So what are we looking at here?
So we are on top of the dirt that has been placed on top of the footprint of the new synagogue, not for any biblical, theological, or religious reasons, but for engineering purposes. We've placed a whole lot of dirt on top of dirt in order to compact and compress the layers of dirt underneath the topsoil. There is no religious reason. The new synagogue will not be built on top of a mountain. This is not, as they say, the Temple Mount. This is an engineering project which will be removed once the engineers tell us that we can remove the dirt. As a matter of fact, all these flags and poles have underneath pressure gauges that will tell the engineers how close to being fully compacted the ground is underneath this dirt, this top dirt. In engineering, I'm told this is called surcharging. For those of you who know about these processes, which I didn't until recently, we are surcharging the land so that the ground will hold the weight of the new building. And this is just on the footprint of what the new building where the new building will be. So for those of you who have asked me, is there a reason, a theological reason, a religious reason, a biblical reason why the new synagogue is going to be built atop a mountain? I hate to disappoint you and shatter your theological speculations, but that's not the reason. And we are back, and I hope you enjoyed that. I will begin to explain why we did this. Erik, he was not on camera. He was our cameraman while I was up on the mound of dirt. Notice how I'm referring to it as the mound of dirt.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yes, and we know why.
Yes. So the truth of the matter is, a number of folk have approached me and several other members of Temple B'nai Israel with the question: does the new synagogue which we are building have to be on the mountain? The answer, as you just saw, is no. And Erik was kind enough to go out and tape the answer. As I say, it's not biblically ordained. It is engineeringly ordained.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive, though. I was coming by there with some clients. We were coming back from a field trip.
Yeah.
And I knew the temple was going somewhere over there, but I didn't know where. Yeah. So when I went by and I saw that big, I was like, oh my gosh, this thing's going to be like the Mormon Tabernacle over there by D.C. or whatever. You know what I mean?
Kidding. But
anyway, so it looked pretty. Does look pretty impressive, and
yes.
But that does make it makes complete sense.
Yes.
With being where the area where the church is, where the synagogue is going, it's kind of low. I guess sort of
because
low.
It was underwater. There's a
right.
layer of organic peat that has to be compressed.
Okay.
Once that's done, all that dirt will be removed, and we will actually start the building, and that's a very exciting moment. And there will be a formal groundbreaking, which hasn't been done yet. We've done 2 ceremonies so far. One to consecrate the land, which I thought was a really beautiful short ceremony, and then just to acknowledge that the dirt, sort of a starting point,
right.
Was placed on top of the topsoil. But when we really break ground with the building crews and all that, we'll have a ceremony, and you'll be there, and we'll make it known. Yeah.
And coming from waiting for the Saints Peter and Paul church has been to be open,
Sure.
and it's an exciting time. Everyone that was in that parish was like, wow, we just can't wait for this thing to get open. And when we had the the grand opening, it's really exciting. So I know everyone at Temple is really excited about this.
And not just the temple. I mean,
The community.
The
in general,
community,
right,
and I am so, not just myself. Myself and the leadership and the congregation, we are so touched and pleased that so many people have been taking note of it and are inspired by it and pleased by it.
Wow. A couple of things I want to get to you about that I want to know. For one, the choosing of the location. Talk about that for a second, because I, for one, think it's just great to have Saints Peter and Paul across the street.
Yes.
You guys got it just shows a true meaning of coming together.
Well, where I stand on that. I think it's wonderful. You may know, I actually wanted to build the temple right opposite the church and share a parking lot in some other places, but I'm told when inquiries were made, that property is going to be used by the church for either a social hall
like a social community center.
So but I'm delighted that we are where we are. It's right on the bypass. It's visible, and you're right. It's close enough that we can see each other, and that makes me very happy. Interestingly enough, when the very diligent folk who searched out property were in the process of identifying land, there's not a whole lot of land to be had around here that met our needs, which is both a positive statement. A couple of the things we wanted to do. We wanted to remain in the city limits. We wanted to be in Easton. We thought that was good on a number of levels, good for the community in general, good for Easton, and good for us. And we're the first people on that tract of land.
Right.
And it's really lovely. We have, as you know, and if you saw in the video, there are trees behind us.
Yep.
There's a little bit of water. We're
deer running back there, all over the place.
The other day there were 2 eagles, not osprey.
Wow.
I know the difference.
Yeah.
There were 2 eagles flying over, which I thought was
really cool.
Was reminded me of the text on eagle's wings, but that's a different issue.
Yeah, well, and the parking there is great. You're gonna have plenty of room for parking. Look, here's one thing. When I ride by Saints Peter and Paul, the old church now, and I don't know how we did that. I don't know how we fit all the people in there. I don't know how we did the parking. It's just amazing to me the amount of people that we squeezed in that church every week. Now, with you got the hospital right there. That brings 2 questions. So how have you been doing it, and what's going to happen to the old temple?
Okay. Both important questions. In terms of how have we been doing it, we haven't been doing it well. Part of the reason that we are involved in this building project and the creation of a new synagogue and the creation of the Sattel Center for Jewish Life on the Eastern Shore is because for major events like the high holidays are coming up in October, we can't seat everybody in the sanctuary. So we have been for a number of years using the very lovely sanctuary at St. Mark's.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it fits everybody, and it's been very lovely. We have a lovely relationship, and as beneficial and as successful as that has been, there's nothing like having your own living room.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
And this now will hold about 400 or so people. We'll be able to get everybody in for the High Holy Days and for other events. Family events, weddings, community programming that we do, and that excites me. So there's a practical reason, as you note, parking was a difficult issue. We've had a wonderful relationship with the hospital, and the security folk at the hospital. When there's a big program, I'll call up and say, can we block off the temple parking? Because we let the hospital folk and patients use normally, because there's no demand for those spaces, except when there's a specific program going on. They've been wonderful, but we will have enough parking. And the building, if you know somebody that wants to buy it, let me know and we'll make a good deal.
So right now it's on the table then?
Right now, the plan is that the building will be sold.
Okay, it will be.
We'll take all obviously all the important things that go with the synagogue. That will come to the new synagogue. The Torah scrolls, whatever else, the prayer book. All the stuff that is
well, it's
movable.
such a pretty place. I don't want to see anything bad happen to it.
No, I don't.
I hope nothing.
No, nothing bad.
Hoping it doesn't get bulldozed down or anything. That's what I'm hoping. It doesn't happen. But I guess it's out of our control.
Well,
right,
you know that the people 66 years ago used the plans for the Methodist Church in Oxford, the exact blueprints. Temple B'nai Israel is the identical building to the Methodist Church in Oxford.
Is that right?
The only difference is that the church has a steeple and the temple doesn't.
Okay. Oh, all right. Didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's the same building, and for a small community, this functioned for many years. We've outgrown it for a lot of reasons.
Right, yeah. No, it definitely makes perfect sense. A growing congregation, more people moving here. You've got to do something. And that's what happened with St. Peter and Paul as well.
Sure.
Just,
but you're right. In some respects, the question how were we able to do that? How was Saints Peter and Paul able to do that? You make do with what you have. But then somebody says, maybe we should be thinking about, and after the initial shock, somebody says, maybe that's not such a crazy idea, and it goes from there.
Right.
And our fundraising has been very successful. We're not yet at completion of our goal, but we're getting close. The generosity of folk is both humbling and appreciated, and it also says to me, it's about a $6.5 million project. And we are just under 6 million at this point. But what it also says to me is that the idea has been embraced, accepted, understood, and supported, which then allows people to not only support it intellectually or emotionally, but also monetarily and with their largesse. And that's been remarkably satisfying and humbling.
Well, are we allowed to talk about the opening? I mean, what's a completion date? I mean, what's a general time frame we're looking at?
God only knows.
What were you hoping for?
Well, the surcharging, the dirt on the dirt, the engineers tell us that can be anywhere between 6 months to a year.
Oh, okay.
So if it's 6 months, that puts us late fall, winter, so we won't be able to start until the spring. And then we figure 18 months to 2 years after that. So we're looking about 3 years out.
Okay, so about 2019.
Yeah,
2008, okay.
something like that.
Right.
And at that point, we will have a community
big party.
A big party. And we'll do what's called in Hebrew a Chanukat Habayit. A dedication of the new house.
Right. Okay.
By the way, Chanukat is the same word as Hanukkah.
Oh, okay.
So Hanukkah is the holiday that celebrates the rededication of the temple. This will be the dedication of the new temple.
Good gosh. Okay.
So,
Can't keep it all straight. I'm glad you can keep it straight for me.
But it's very exciting. It's remarkably uplifting. It speaks really positively about the community, not only the general community in which we live, but about the Jewish community that has been supportive of the synagogue for many, many years and decades.
Yeah, and something I've always wanted to ask you. I've known you for so many years now, and you've been all over the world, you've been all over the United States. How does our community rank? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I hear things all the time about people that move here. Like, the reason we came here is because of the people and the community and the showing of helping each other, and we're a generous community. We're always there to step up for each other. And what are your thoughts on that? We're just a small little place, but I mean, you've been all over the place. Are we up there pretty good as far as human kindness?
I believe that we are a remarkable community, and I'm not just saying that. I've said this privately to family members who visit, to friends who visit. I think our leadership has vision and concern and compassion, and I've said that to the mayor, to our police chief,
Yes.
And to members of his staff. I think Easton. I actually think Easton's the most deceptive place I've ever lived, because I remember coming down 301 from Philadelphia for my first interview, and all on 301, as you know, if you've been on it. First of all, it's all cornfields and soybean patches, and there's not a restaurant or a gas station on 301 between here and between Delaware and 50.
Middletown, yeah.
Middletown and 50, exactly.
Yeah.
And I tell people, if you die on 301, you better tell somebody before you do, because ain't nobody going to find you.
Yep, exactly.
And I'm thinking to myself, where am I going? I mean, I don't see anything. I'm going from Philadelphia and
well, it's worse at night coming there. If you're tired at coming home from night, coming back from trips from New York, Philadelphia, Atlantic City, or anything, and you're coming back 3 or 4 in the morning, boy.
Let me tell you.
Phew.
So
it's rough.
So I get now. Obviously, I'm familiar with the area.
Right.
So I get off of 301, and I'm on 219, and I make a left on 50, and I'm still not seeing much more. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, all right, I'll be nice. I'll answer their questions. I'll go back and I'll figure out. And then that morning, as I pass the airport, which I now know is not unusual, I see these 3 private jets.
Yeah.
And one's a Learjet, the other was a Gulfstream, and one I didn't recognize.
You knew something was going on.
And I swear this is true. I thought to myself, what am I not seeing?
Right.
Okay. And I got here and I met with people who were engaging and interesting and community-minded, and I never left.
Right.
You know?
I'm glad you're still here.
I'm
glad you want to flash in the pan and you're here to stay.
Yeah, me too. I am. And
well, just your little bit of time that you've been here, you've been very engaging with the community, and you're bringing more folks together all the time, and that's just it's really important, especially with what's going on. I mean, even like today we watched this video about Syria, and it'll break your heart. And we just need people to love each other, and just, I'm not trying to be a hippie here and talk about peace and love, but I'm getting tired of seeing all the hate. I don't know about you, but I'm really getting tired of it, man. It's depressing.
I think lots of us are. As you know, I take great pride in the fact that and when I say I mean the congregation B'nai Israel as well, we have wonderful relationships with the Muslim community. Doctors Kamshay and Gawad are dear close friends, and we are working on projects that at some point I'll come back and we'll talk about, which will continue.
Yeah, and we both know we've got some things cooking that we don't want to talk about
exactly.
yet. But that's it's great.
I take great pride in the fact that the congregation on Sunday mornings, the sanctuary is used by Tri-Life Christian Center.
Oh, okay.
Pastor Anthony Short and his congregation, they literally rock the house on Sunday mornings. And we've been able to establish not only a close friendship, but a close congregational friendship.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. St. Mark's lending their church. Gosh, I don't know what we would do without St. Mark's on some of these funerals around here.
Oh yeah.
Some of the the bigger events that happen. It is the biggest church around.
Yeah,
As far as it can hold the most people, and it's just they're very generous to open their doors to.
Yep.
And it's great that all the religious leaders around here get along, and we I'm not speaking for everyone, but from what I see, it seems like everyone has a nice relationship. It's
important. That goes back to the initial intent of your question. As a community leader, as a part of the religious establishment, I believe our job is to add to the physical beauty of Easton is clear and visible to anybody who comes in. It's our job to enhance that by making the emotional environment, the sociological reality of the place equally beautiful. And I take great pride in the fact that we do that. And
yeah, you do.
Along with Tackle, there are a number of religious leaders, Reverend Nancy Scheida, Reverend Sue Browning, Bishop Joel Johnson, I'm leaving out people, but not on purpose.
But it's nice to have facilitators like you to get everyone, get them together, because I don't know whether people are just shy sometimes or they don't want to overstep their boundaries, but you have to, we've all got to come, we all got to get together, man. Really do.
Listen, you're absolutely right. And part of the challenge for all of us is to demystify, take away the unknown.
Because a lot of that is what it is.
Of course.
It's the unknown.
Of
Fear
course.
of the unknown.
And I haven't had a chance to ever sit down with somebody who is different than I am, at least, different in quotations. And all of a sudden, you start building a relationship, and those differences, they disappear very quickly.
Right.
So that was a great question.
Well, look, I'm just glad you came by. This show, we talked about not doing the show today, and I'm glad we did. I said let's just talk and let's just chat about things for a little bit, because we're all on such a mission half the time that we don't just sit here and just ease back and just talk about what's on our mind, and we can run this show for quite a while, like you're talking about. So that's what we'll do.
And thank you for trudging up and climbing up the dare I say it, the Temple Mount.
The Temple Mount.
No, it is not the Temple Mount. I only say that tongue in cheek. There's only one Temple Mount, and it is not in Easton.
Well, and some educated people I've talked to, which I think are highly educated, or asking about like, what's the purpose of this thing being so high? Like, they just don't know, I guess.
Right. It's not about
Right.
Look, it causes all of us to chuckle.
Right.
I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, I am too.
So Easton, when you go by and see the new site for Temple B'nai Israel and the Satel Center for Jewish Life on the Eastern Shore, it's not, again, biblically or divinely dictated. It's a requirement of the engineers.
Right. And look, folks out there in Easton, the rabbi is a very approachable person, so he loves having people come up to him and just chit-chat and talk about what's on their mind and what's going on in the community, because he's really engaged in our community, and I think it's fabulous. And it's always good to see you, my friend.
And it's always a pleasure to have you at the
It's been a while since we've actually talked on film for a while, so it's been good.
So come back to the round. I'll have you back shortly. Okay. We'll do some other things.
Man. All right.
Anyway, Easton, this was a great few minutes. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time on the Rabbi's Roundtable.
Every Friday night feels like our first date. He buys the drinks, pulls out my chair. When the lights go down, something magic happens. Over 100 shows a year in the Stoltz listening room. Over 100 chances for a first date.